Palace in Manila, where it's just over 100 days into the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte. In an exclusive first interview since he was sworn in, we talked to him about his controversial war on drugs and foreign policy, including deteriorating relations with the United States and potentially warming relations with China.
The President of the Republic of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, talks to Al Jazeera.
In the first part of our interview with President Duterte, he defended his war on drugs. In this half hour, we'll talk foreign policy. Is he really moving his country away from the United States? And if so, will he move closer to China? And why is he insulting so many foreign leaders?
I don't think anyone could deny, doesn't matter how controversial it is, that you've delivered on your election campaign promise to crack down on drugs.
Yes.
One thing you haven't delivered on yet is your promise to ride a jet ski out to the disputed territory in the South China Sea and plant the Philippine flag on there. Now, many people, many voters, I assume, took that as a sign that you were going to be tough on China in that disputed territory in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea, but you haven't been. Why?
Do you really think that I would go there riding? I don't even own a jet.
No, I don't. But people perceived that as a sign that you were going to get tough with China.
It was a hyperbole. Literally, it's you cannot expect to ride. I don't even know how to swim. And if it overturns, then you lose a president along the way.
So why did you say that then? What were you referring to?
Yeah, hyperbole. To stress a point that we will not give up anything there.
But your statements recently tend to indicate that you are willing to give up some territory there.
No, it does. Nobody's going to give up the judgment that it's in our favor. You cannot. I cannot give it up. Nobody can give it up. Nobody in the Constitution allows anybody to give it up. Even the president cannot give it up. Those are our entitlements. This is an island. Everybody, every country in this world is given its own fish pond. That's your fish pond where you get the fish, the shells, and everything. You cannot give it up. You can only negotiate to prevent war. Remember that okay, I'll push your logic to this logical conclusion. We have this judgment, right? Two things. I can go into a rage because it's being occupied, but remember, it is not a sovereignty that is there. Is the entitlement attached to it is the sovereignty. Okay? The other is to go into a rage and fight, and the other is to talk. What do you think will happen to my country if I choose to go to war? I fight alone? Or I would call upon the other countries to help me? Who? Who would die for my country except us? So we can only talk. And that's why they invited me for talks. I will go. But I will go with this paper.
A blank sheet
Mr.
of paper.
President, yeah, I said, this is the award. I cannot go out beyond the boundaries of this paper. Let's talk. Let's begin here.
The Philippines won a landmark case against China, unprecedented in recent history, a smaller country standing up to a superpower. It declared the 9-dash claim of China invalid. Now, you're going to China, and you've mentioned previously, you said that you will not insist on the position of the Philippines on the Scarborough Shoal. Now, your critics are questioning why it seems you're going to China and negotiating from a position of weakness rather than of strength.
It would be arrogant to me to go there and say, I'm going there to fight for this and that. You know, there's much to be learned in history, and even in the books, and the way the Orientals places the words in his mouth, especially the Chinese. You have to go there with a little bit of courtesy. But when you are already in front of each other, then I said, this is it. We do not go. What would be the purpose in going there without this? For what?
But you can guarantee to the Philippine people that you are not going to sign away or give up hope or give up fighting for the Spratlys, Scarborough Shoal.
Yes, in the first
they are
place I
Philippine
said,
territory.
nobody but nobody, not even the president of this country, can give up the claim. You are not allowed to do that. That is one sure way of going to impeachment.
But can you guarantee that you will fight to
Yeah,
maintain
of course.
those?
Nobody's going to give up anything there. I said, if the Constitution does not allow you, then who can? Then not even your mouse. That's how it is.
What deals are you hoping to do when you go to China?
Well, maybe we talk about, I would know, or I would not know the wherewithal, so where we would start. Then the judgmental thing would come into fore. Then some other matters about trade and commerce. And if there's any arrangement, if we want to come to a happy compromise, then we can talk about entitlements of the China Sea. But really, I cannot predict on any solid thing to talk about until I'm there. So I am not there until I am there.
Will you discuss the war on drugs? Because records show that
Of
a lot
course.
of the drugs coming into the Philippines
Yes,
are coming from China.
They understand it. That's why they'd like to help. But you know, China now is a democracy. I mean, the communist is just something which is just a thing to go by, to keep control. But everything there is free enterprise.
Mr. President, you have clearly moved away from the United States. Why do you think it is necessary for the country to distance itself from its long-standing ally in Asia?
Just because I'm going to China doesn't mean to say that I'm moving away from the United States.
But you talked about pursuing a different paradigm.
What I'm saying is that please do not be too discourteous for us. Because if you think that we are bad, you are in a bad company, you're free to go. I mean, so what kind of a friend are you that instead of following the normal process of due process for my country, when I was mayor, it was okay. But when I was a president, you should be careful. Because whether you like me or not, I may be insignificant to you, but I carry the burden of sovereignty. So if you begin to insult me in international fora, without any going into a legal investigation, then you put to shame every Filipino out there.
So are you saying if the US had not publicly criticized the war on drugs, then relations would be normal now, as they have been for many decades?
Had America just followed the normal procedure of calling the attention of a country to a certain violation that would affect the laws of humanity, it could have just followed the due process, which is normally accorded to everybody by going to the United Nations, airing the grievance, if you may, for other people, then demanding that there should be an investigation. It should begin in the internal body of the United Nations, because we are, or the Philippines is, a member of the United Nations.
So if they had done that, relations would be normal now, military ties would be normal?
I said this Orientalist, you just be courteous. We are not used to being bamboozled and just, Mr. Duterte, you know that the serious violations could result in the cutting of AIDS. That is not acceptable to us, actually. We call it in our dialect, boy. And in the Tagalog, it's
Sumbat.
You give things to them and say, oh, I give you these things, and you're not doing what I want. That is a very serious mistake.
So there have been some contradictory statements lately about military relations in particular between the Philippines and the US, contradictory from you and some other members of your government. Can we just clear up a couple of things?
Yes.
Will military ties, military exercises with the US end now?
It ends now.
Okay. Will you walk away from the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement that was signed by your predecessor 2 years ago?
Upon a review with the military authorities.
How are you feeling now? Which
Well,
way are you leaning?
they should know my sentiment.
What
But it would depend on the advice of the military.
What is your sentiment?
But they know my sentiment. Everybody knows my sentiment.
That-
You know my sentiment.
That you will end that.
Yes, because I said if I'm in a bad company, then why bear with me?
So that's without finality yet, basically, you're saying.
I said I have to consult the military.
You also have a mutual defence agreement, mutual defence treaty that was signed back in 1951. Will you walk away from that?
I cannot abrogate it. Now, let me ask you this question, and tell me frankly, really. Is there a need for me to maintain military ties with anybody, and even with Africa and Somalia and all? Now, let me ask this question. Having said that, if there is really a third world war, where all the ICBMs and the Poseidons and the land air-based and in the skies, if it's going to be a third war, then everybody pushes its nuclear power. China, Russia, and America. Would there be enough time to talk about the third world war?
Maybe not, but your relations go far beyond things like that with the US. They go to disaster relief, things like that. Aren't you putting all of that at risk?
I do not think they will be there for us.
But they were at Typhoon Haiyan just a few years ago.
Oh, what?
Typhoon Haiyan.
That's not a war. And if they want, they could have, you can forgo with it. Other nations will come. Or we will die. Double the number. And so, Haiyan is just a creation of the climate change, which the industrial countries also created, helped grow. You know, in terms of gas emissions, we are here. We would like to reach this limit, but we say, oh no, it's a ratio and proportion along the way. Look, stupid, you have reached the heights of industrialization. All these years, you were spewing all the gas, carbon and everything, footprints. We had little or had nothing, little to do with it. Now we would like to reach where you are now. But also they're controlled because so and until the end of the world, it's going to be always like that. So that is how interest countries really work. They come as you go to our place in Paris, or we go to Canada or South America, then we'll discuss about it. But you know, we have this kind. We would like to help you, but do not try to catch up with us and overtake us, because it would contribute so much carbon emission. and who's responsible for the climate? Who's responsible for Hainan? Who's responsible for the monsters of tornadoes and it's an industrialized countries? We had nothing to do with it.
Hang on, Mr. President.
Yes.
Filipinos love America. Historically, it's the strongest ally in Asia. If you distance yourself from it, do you not worry that it will be an unpopular decision among your people?
In the first place, had they not been here in the Philippines, there would have been no Second World War for us. The Manila battle killed about, they say, 200,000 people. The enemies came because they were there also in the first place. Matter of fact, they stayed here for 50 years, and that is why the enemies came, because they know that they are here. Imagine the Philippines without an American. Would have the Japanese sent so many battalions and their imperial armies to occupy this island?
Do you think it would be better off?
Well, if you go back in time, what would be the sense of sending you? Unless you want to occupy the whole world.
Incidentally, the world is watching the United States at the moment with the election campaign that is going on there. Who would you rather work with in the White House, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
You asked me after this because I said I'm the president of a sovereign state. We are not supposed to say something about politics there. Unlike the ambassador of America, when he was asked a question about in a speech of mine about a slur of women, about women, it was not It was a narration of an event which actually happened. And that is why I said, you're a journalist, you can check it out.
So you're saying...
I said those words in anger when I saw the women dead and raped.
So you would not reveal now who you'd rather collaborate with between Clinton and Trump?
I have my
Preferences?
Preferences. Of course, it's obvious to you who she or who he. Be careful with the she and the he.
You're quite a controversial figure. In fact, possibly currently the most controversial figure globally right now. You've cursed Obama. You've told the EU and the United Nations basically to, you said, go to hell. Do you think, though, and a lot of people are quite shocked over such statements, do you think, though, that you have effectively performed your duty as the country's top diplomat?
Yes. I'll tell you the secret why. Why? My behavior? Because I was not given a chance to explain. And if I did explain, nobody was hearing me. And the lies that they started about this thing, about extrajudicial killing, kept on piling up. I was boxed in. I could read it every day. And you know, there are Filipinos who may or may not agree with them. And so they're calling, why don't you answer? And I kept on answering, but nobody was explaining. Even the local newspapers. What could be my defense? To call their attention. Except to say BS. Now, when I said BS, everybody was interested now. So, what is it? Insult can be a defense. Insult can be a defense. I need to say mine. So, it was only when I began to spew out cuss words, epithets, curses, that they, why is this guy? This guy is something new. He's uncivilized and coughed and everything. Fine. You can call me everything. Listen to what I'm saying now. So, I got this chance with everybody. After this, there's another one, and there's another one.
Do you agree with your spokesperson that everything you say is subject to creative interpretation? Don't you mean what you say?
You know, you're from here. You know that the usual connotation of putang ina, it's a cuss word. It's a slang, actually. Slang, it's the usual, our language, son of a bitch. The ladies would say it, salamagan, or son of a gun. It is never interpreted in a phrase in English called son of a whore. You can ask anybody, in the media and anywhere, we never connotate the son of a bitch with the son of a whore.
But don't you think
the word whore is quite terrible.
But don't you think the role of a president when you're addressing another president of another country, that there's a certain level of language, certain level of behavior that is expected?
Yes, I tried to answer Obama, but my answers never got to be published. I could not even hear my own words, my explanation. Even
well, you told him to go to hell.
Yes, because that is the time now that he would hear me, my explanation. Nobody was publishing it even here. And I said that was a very discourteous thing. I said, however significant I may appear to you, please do not do that because I'm a president of a country.
I've got to ask this. You have publicly criticized the United States for its atrocities it committed during the first American war in the early 1900s. Those atrocities were committed against Moro Muslims in the southern Philippines. Now, but your critics are questioning why you have become generally silent on far bigger atrocities committed most recently by the dictatorial regime of former President Ferdinand Marcos.
It's a political issue which is really there already. No need to repeat it all over again every day, because if there's no reason to dwell on it and says, oh, why are you talking about Marcos? We were talking here about Obama. So it's already there. In a sense, I was also there that night.
They think the reason why you have not mentioned it is because you're allied with the Marcos family here.
No, it's politics. All is politics. If they want to support me, and they did during the last election, it's fine. It's in the numbers. But I do not have to repeat the EDSA revolution every day before breakfast and say it with my prayers.
You have said that former President Ferdinand Marcos was the best president of the Philippines, and yet he ruled with an iron fist. He was a dictator. Thousands of people were killed.
His talent, his ability has nothing to do with his desire to perpetuate himself.
Okay, but
That's another thing. That's another thing. I'm referring to the brain work of a person.
what if you become frustrated by the democratic processes in this country, by the bureaucracy in trying to get things done democratically? Will you consider
Yeah.
returning this country to a dictatorship?
Interesting, really, actually. Now, you see what's happening now. How many hours did it take to travel, Edsa?
To travel here?
Yeah. How many hours did it take you to
it
travel?
can take hours.
Well, they're giving me emergency powers. I think no need to go into a martial law thing. I have sensed that Congress is also quite helpful in the sense that they're considering to give me emergency powers. Minus the bidding, minus all you have to do is say, okay, you're a great company, you have a track record. It's something like that.
And what's the next step after that, though?
Well, the next step is when it says it's only good for 200 days, it's good for 200 days. Then you stop it. Then you go back to the bidding. What do you mean? I cannot fathom your question, but would be something
Would
like
you?
this. If this country would remain moribund,
If you get frustrated with how the long democratic process, the long legal process of getting things done, when you only have 6
Yes,
years, would you?
I think it's really pathetic because, politics and all. But our government is so crafted in a way that everybody has got to have a cake and eat it too.
You are a very controversial figure. Some of your methods are seen as almost already authoritarian. A lot of people are getting nervous, and people would like to know, where are you taking this country?
I don't, for the life of me, I have yet to remember the thing that I did that would indicate that I have the traces of being dictatorial. From day one, well, the curses and the slang, the epithets, but I cannot remember of an incident here, an event which would indicate at the very least that I have traces of being, tends to be dictatorial. Let's just put it that way. I've always been a good boy, a holy man in this thing.
Well, we're just over 100 days into your presidency now. You've got just under 6 years left in your term. From a personal point of view, the stresses of the job, the criticism, the long hours, how do you think you're going to handle the next 6 years at the age of 71?
I was at the hospital last night. So I had these rashes, I don't know where it came from. I was itching all over. There was a program yesterday and I could not help scratching my body. I get to be to have more issues with my little ones, rashes and everything. Yesterday, I was all red inside and I could hardly stop myself from scratching everywhere. It's actually, it contributes a lot to a person's the comfort zone, where you feel that when you work at night, you feel good, you sleep feeling good, wake up. Those are the things which, those are the luxuries which is not available here. But you have to be here because this is the seat of power.
How would you like to be remembered as president? What would be your legacy? What would you like it to be?
Now I just say that Rodrigo Duterte, he tried his best.
All right, Mr. President, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.